Water isn't just essential. It's infrastructure, it's power, it's economic security. This episode dives into how the Midwest is leading innovation in the blue economy, why water security is becoming a national priority, and how everything from PFAS to AI's hidden water usage is shaping the future of our most critical resource. Today's guest is someone at the center of reimagining how we manage, protect, and innovate around water. Alaina Harkness is the CEO of Current, Chicago's water innovation hub, and CEO of Great Lakes Renew, the National Science Foundation-funded Great Lakes Water Innovation Engine. She's a nationally recognized leader in the blue economy, working at the intersection of science, tech, policy, and economic development to solve some of the most urgent water challenges of our time, from PFAS contamination to infrastructure resilience and circular innovation. Alaina's career spans philanthropy, urban policy, and economic growth, having held roles at the Brookings Institution, the MacArthur Foundation, and the Chicago Council of Global Affairs. She's also a proud Midwesterner and lifelong water advocate. Alaina, welcome to Unbottled.
It's great to be here, Manuela.
So you grew up in Park Forest, Illinois. Can you tell us an early memory around water that really made it stick with you?
Sure. So for those who aren't familiar, Park Forest is one of the south suburbs of Chicago. And so we're sort of on the way to a lot of different ways to get to Lake Michigan. And one of my earliest water memories, deep in the heart of summer, is going to the Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore, running down the dunes full speed. And it's like the driest, hottest, most parched environment you can imagine, kind of log rolling all the way down and then running straight into the water. And just the combination, that kind of contrast of that dry desert landscape that we really don't think of as part of the Midwest, but is deeply a part of the Great Lakes region.
Yeah.
And then, full tilt immersion into this massive, beautiful freshwater lake.
Yeah.
That's the defining water experience for me. It's that transformational, just total cathartic, life-giving feel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This past weekend, we were up in Door County, Wisconsin, and I brought my mom who lives on the East Coast, and she was like, this looks like Narragansett and Newport, and Westerly. And I was like, yeah, it's just without the salt water.
Right.
It's just fresh water.
Right.
So, I think a lot of people don't understand how much that water scene is really a part of the Midwest.
That's right. Our freshwater sea, right there.
So then, given that a lot of people do have these images in their minds, why does water still feel invisible to most people, even though we all rely on it every single day?
Yeah, I think it's a triumph of modernity that we have engineered our way to a place, right? We have built our way into the privilege of not having to think about where our clean drinking water comes from,
right,
or where our wastewater goes. This is it's like a developed world privilege that so many of us take for granted. And of course, in places where you don't have basic drinking water and wastewater and sanitation, this is a fundamental everyday challenge that is top of mind and incredibly costly. It's a big burden, right, for people to bear. And so I just think it's a position of privilege, but it's also something that we have consciously engineered our way into not having to think about. And so there's a sort of premium that we have to place on remembering what it means to be good stewards, what it means to be custodians of that resource. But I think that's part of it. We've intentionally designed our way to a place where just like the trash we throw away, we don't see it, we don't have to think about it, and it's not on our minds until it's a crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. Fascinating. Well, let's talk a little bit more about who you are. We'd love to hear your journey, what got you to where you are today. And that can be a mix of career and personal experiences.
Yeah, so I think my career journey is really shaped by place and where I grew up, and certainly the region that I've called home for most of my life here in the Great Lakes. Growing up in the south suburbs, one of the sort of defining features, it was a very sort of diverse kind of middle class place. Growing up, I spent a lot of time driving to and from downtown Chicago and all sorts of points around the Great Lakes region. And so that nexus of like the deep urban, everything that is great about dense urban life, but also everything that's beautiful about Great Lakes Midwestern wilderness. I just grew up appreciating and wanting to support and sustain both of those realities, you know? And so I think my first roles were all about how to work with communities and cities to build them into places that can support opportunity for people, but also living more lightly on the planet and thinking about how dense cities allow us to preserve wilderness and allow us to, live in harmony with the natural world that I so love and value.
Right.
And I think that's been a driver for me my whole career. So I've had roles where I've worked on that sort of urban and community and economic development policy at different scales here domestically in the U.S., but also in cities around the world, which is great comparative perspective to understand how how universal these challenges are of living with density, creating economic opportunity, thinking about how to reconcile the conveniences of the modern world with preservation of the wild spaces and wilderness that we all depend on for our existence. And that's just been a through line for me. So didn't come from water. I've only been working directly in the water space, leading Current now for, I guess, going on 6 years. And prior to that, it's just been all about trying to understand the complex interaction of the public, private, civic kind of sectors and how we make big change happen.
I remember the first time we were about to meet and I was reading up on you. And if I recall correctly, I think you did graduate field work in Latin America.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, I worked in Mexico, in southern Mexico specifically, in Oaxaca, which is, for those who don't know or haven't had the joy of experiencing it, it's one of the most biodiverse places on the planet, culturally, linguistically diverse places on the planet. It is just by any measure like the most diversity packed into one geography that you can possibly imagine. It's got, so many different biomes and just this incredibly rich kind of tapestry of human and natural world experiences. And it was a great place to do field work. I was studying networks of community museums. So why and how people create institutions around the things that they care about and value in the places that they live. And so they ranged from everything from preserving specific dyeing and weaving traditions to very particular parts of like the biome and the natural world. And it was just absolutely fascinating to see how people took this, institutional form, the museum, and then applied it to how we create and share and educate people about the value of the things that we love about where we live.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. It is a question I've often asked myself when traveling, and I can see how Oaxaca would be such a great opportunity and like rich environment to research.
Absolutely.
That topic. I got to go to Oaxaca a couple of years ago, and they were starting to face actually a water crisis. And so could also see how that would be an interesting, topic to study there.
Right. Well, and all about how you sort of have ownership, local ownership and control, of the things that we value, whatever those resources are, whether they're cultural or the resources that we depend on for our lives and livelihoods. And so I think all of those issues are so interconnected, but tied up in ideas of how do we get that autonomy, control, and responsibility for those resources. So
amazing, and how that leans back to your earlier point of thinking about the privilege we have here of not having to think about water, for example, and other basic necessities. So you brought up Current, where you are the CEO. You're also the CEO at Great Lakes Renew. Can you tell us about each of these organizations and what you do every day?
Yeah, it's interesting. So Current itself, that's the nonprofit that I lead. And Current's been around since 2016, so coming up on our 10-year anniversary next year. And it has always been a coalition-oriented organization. So we were formed by a network of research universities, public sector leaders that cared about water, utilities like our Metropolitan Water Reclamation District in the city of Chicago, Department of Water Management. And it was all about bringing cross-sector leaders together to help propel our region's problem-solving capabilities and innovation leadership around water. And so that's the kind of origin story in DNA. And it's important because what we've been able to do as current, developing that track record of sort of bringing that cross-sector leadership group together, demonstrating some really important pilots, helping bringing technology to life, thinking about the role that water plays in our region's broader economic future, has all laid the groundwork for Great Lakes Renew, which is our largest initiative, and it's our biggest coalition. And so the role that I play, Current serves as the kind of quarterback for this much broader regional effort that has more than 60 partners. But again, that same range of research universities, public sector utilities, corporate partners, civic leaders that are all invested in thinking about how we can make the Great Lakes into the center of the country's water innovation driver, right? So that's what we're thinking about how to do with Great Lakes Renew. So it's really an initiative that we lead that is also gets a lot of its leadership from partners all around the region that are doing work similar to us. And it's a bigger tent and a bigger canvas for us to play with in the water innovation space.
And you recently won an incredible award from the National Science Foundation. Would you be able to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are in the second year of implementation for what the National Science Foundation calls their Regional Innovation Engines program. And the engines are, in so many ways, have the building blocks of what Current was set out to do in the beginning. Help research and development projects that are going to really discover novel, cutting-edge ways to manage water, discover them faster. Helping technologies that are solving pressing water challenges get to market and get to deployment and adoption faster. I know you know a lot about this, thinking about the challenges of adoption and scale. And finally, building the human capital, the talent and the workforce that is going to sustain that water innovation engine, definitely for us here in the Great Lakes, but also for the country and for the world. And so it's really about that research, the innovation, and the talent. And here in the second year, what we've been able to do with support for the National Science Foundation is really bring that broader coalition effort to life. So we've launched new research projects that are involving stakeholders from across the entire region. We have brought corporate partners in and utility partners to help shape that research agenda, which is really exciting. And we're working on mapping out what are the workforce needs of this entire region, where are the gaps, and how can we start to fill them? And so we've made progress on each of those fronts, but we're really kind of wrapping up what the National Science Foundation calls the nascent phase of this effort. And we are hoping we'll have another 8 years to continue building this massive vision, because our total vision and the transition we're trying to spur, building a circular blue economy here in our region, transforming wasteful practices into wealth-building practices. Those are big ideas, and a decade is going to be a running start, but these are generational transitions that we're trying to make.
Right. Amazing. So exciting. In your view, after, let's say, that 10-year period, what would Chicago water innovation look like? What would the region's water innovation look like? What about nationally?
Yeah. I guess let's talk about some of the major shifts we want to see that I know these are going to resonate. Right. These are really going to resonate, I know, with some of the big changes you're trying to spur. So number one, we're sitting here at the edge of, we've got 20% of the world's fresh surface water in our backyard. Back to your point about it being invisible, we take that for granted. We don't do reuse very well. We don't do conservation particularly well. We haven't had to. We don't have the scarcity drivers that places like California, Nevada, dry places. This is not a technology problem. It's a policy, system, and consumer behavior problem. We don't have to care. We haven't had to care. And we just haven't engineered our system to use every single drop of water to its highest and best use, right? So 10 years from now, I hope we are at a totally different place in that adoption curve, and we're moving towards much greater water reuse. We are recovering valuable resources from our, I'm going to put this in heavy air quotes, wastewater. There's no such thing as wastewater. There's just water that's carrying materials, right? All sorts of dissolved materials away. Some of those we want to recover and reclaim and put back into productive use.
Right.
Some of those we want to contain and destroy because they're destructive to human health and in the environment.
Like PFAS, for example.
PFAS, like microplastics.
Right.
Right? Like not everything, we don't know yet how we can recover and reclaim everything. Some of it is really, separate, sequester, destroy. Right? So I'd love to see us, that's the big idea. Like, can we be moving closer to that arc? I'd love to see every child that grows up, certainly here in the Great Lakes region, with this inspiration of our water right in the backyard. I want them to know that it's there, be able to experience it, and understand how that splash of the experience transforms them into a lifelong learner that understands there's a million ways to work in water.
Right.
What does that look like? What are the good jobs helping to replace lead service lines and maintaining our infrastructure? What are the great jobs running the utility of the future? Right. These are exceptionally interesting opportunities that are not on radar for the majority of youth in our region or people that are looking to change careers. So I think we've got huge opportunity there too. And then finally, and this I know will really resonate, I want this to be a friendlier place to grow water startups. Right. We still need much more investment in venture capital here, more opportunities to build and grow our ecosystem of water and energy and related startups. And I think we're, joining a much bigger movement that you're a part of that is also trying to do the same thing, attract more attention to this region and provide more resources to entrepreneurs that are building transformational technology right here in the Midwest.
Yeah, and some of the initiatives that you've taken on, I can reference some, and maybe you'll want to also add, just because it helps people really understand, like, tangibly, what does this great vision actually translate into that you are also doing already. So I understand you've launched this great accelerator program now, right, with MHub. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about the goals of that program.
Sure. We've actually launched as part of, again, backed by the National Science Foundation with that catalytic investment. We've launched 2 new strategic partnerships with accelerators that are each aimed at helping to bring very specific segments of the water technology innovation market forward. So with MHub, we are working on the water-intensive industries that are all around manufacturing and helping to support them with their goals around mitigating water use, being more sustainable. I think a lot of people don't know that manufacturing in general is a very water-intensive industry. Right. It's one that requires a lot of water and has many opportunities to reduce that water consumption. We also need to just be thinking about how to help manufacturers reduce that water risk in their business, whether they're manufacturing here in our region where we have a lot of manufacturing and hope to have more, but also companies that are headquartered here but do the majority of their manufacturing elsewhere, possibly in places where water risks are a lot greater, right? So we're dealing with all aspects of the manufacturing supply chain, and the MHub strategic partnership is all about building on the world-class asset that we have with MHub and tuning it to the needs of water entrepreneurs. So we're really excited about that first-time flagship program. The second one we've just launched is with Nomadic Venture Partners, and it's all about the mining industry, actually, which I think is really, I think maybe surprising to many here in the Midwest who don't think about the Great Lakes as a place where we do a lot of mining. We actually do some, but more importantly, we're creating technologies here that can be deployed all over the place in places where there is a bigger concentration of mining, and mine wastewater is full of resources that we need to recover. And so we're really excited to have launched that strategic partnership. Nomadic brings deep expertise in the mining sector and a very aligned, kind of values-aligned commitment to more sustainability in mining and security of our kind of critical mineral supply chains. So really excited about that one too.
So cool. And great venture fund located here.
Absolutely.
As well. Really impressive. I didn't know about that. So cool.
Just launched.
Okay. All right.
Hot
We're getting some scoops here on Unbottled. And so you've talked a bit about like examples that show how you lead water innovation at local, regional, national scales. I'm curious, just from a personal perspective, what drew you into this space and what's kept you here? Like, what is it that, those moments in the day where the going is getting tough that you say, oh my God, but I love this. Like, I want to keep pushing forward on this effort around water innovation.
Yeah. I have always been attracted, I think, to the hard and long-term problems that are deeply satisfying, but mean you need the long-term commitment and effort. Like, I don't think, it's satisfying to me to wake up every day with like the next problem to solve in an arc that I know is going to be generational, but I'm playing a role in a chapter and I'm cultivating a team and working with a team of experts that this is what keeps me going every single day. I work with this incredible team of entrepreneurs and problem solvers, and we work with like this huge network of deep experts who are each like, so deep in their vertical and know so much. They know the most in the world about how to destroy PFAS, right? Or how to bring a mining, like specific critical mineral recovery to the mining sector in a way that could be transformational. But I love the breadth and like being able to connect them all and create that arc of the big idea, like this idea of waste to wealth, right? For our coalition that everybody can see themselves in and can be inspired by. But connecting those deep experts, that's a joy every single day. I am constantly learning. Our whole team is constantly learning. And that's the fun of it. That's the real joy. It's like every single day, entrepreneurship is a verb, right? We're out here like building, inspiring, and trying to solve the next problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hearing a lot of the catchphrases that you hear a lot in like the innovation entrepreneurship space, like grit and resilience, but also impatience.
Absolutely.
And wanting to, accelerate change.
Yeah. Those are the harder days, right? Like the pace of change.
Yeah.
I think the central tension in like keeping the optimism and motivation up is like finding the right balance between knowing the gravity and the urgency of the problems we're trying to tackle, and also understanding these are big system change problems, right? So we really have to look for like, what are the bright spots? What are the moments where we're directionally correct in our strategy, right? And we know it's like, okay, can start to see the momentum, but it is a tension to feel like water risk is costly, it is rising, it is everywhere, it is affecting people disproportionately. And that's a heavy thing to think about every single day. Right. On the other hand, it's a really inspiring thing to wake up every day and go, which of the 200 people, that have just come into our network that are all aligned with this direction, are we going to figure out how to streamline today? Yeah. That's a great motivational moment.
Absolutely. And focusing on the small wins as you're going, right?
Yes, because they do accumulate. And then it's the storytelling to make sure that, everyone understands how those small things are aligning. Right. Yeah, and adding up to something big.
Amazing. Yeah. So we've been kind of tiptoeing around what is the blue economy.
Yeah.
Can you help us understand it and tell us also why does it matter? We've got some idea already, but share more.
So I think it's helpful to start with like the building blocks of like, what's an economy? What's an economy? The economy is everything that we are doing to make, create, aggregate value, right? And live in the world, right? So just at a very basic building block sense, water is fundamental to all of that, which makes it invisible as an economic development matter a lot of the time, right? So back to this invisibility, we don't think about it when it comes out of the tap. We don't think about it when we flush it away. We also don't think about the fact that water infrastructure is a pillar and a foundation of every single economy all around the world, right? And so it's easier to see when we have water risk, water shortage, water catastrophe, which is unfortunately the reality, all right? And we're experiencing this more and more. One statistic about this, just to put it in hard, like dollars and cents terms, there's a projection that $70 trillion in GDP will be at risk because of water risk and stress by 2050. That's like the total size of the economy today, right? So if you think about that in just economic terms, all of that risk, very costly to governments, costly to corporations, costly to you and me, people, everyday people, but also solving those water management and water risk challenges creates enormous wealth building, wealth creation opportunity. Right. So how is that going to be distributed? Where does it land? How do we propel that forward? So when we think about the blue economy, we, number one, are thinking about everybody that's building those solutions, because those are the people, just like you are building a solution to a water challenge, right? Qidea is building a water solution. Your customers need those water solutions. They're both in the blue economy, right? It's the supply and demand of water technology solutions. That is how we think about this in the broadest terms. And one of the jobs that we have to do is keeping it on radar for our governments that are investing in economic strategy.
Right.
And that's at every level, local, state, and federal. And that's what we've been working to do, at Current, starting kind of in our backyard home of Chicago, trying to put it on map as an economic development matter for our region. Let's attract businesses here because of our water. Let's sustain them here because of their good water stewardship and the demand they have for water tech. And it's the same thing for the state. And it's frankly the same thing for the country when we think about how water plays into our domestic competitiveness, our economic security, the stability of our supply chains, the health of our population.
Yeah, incredible. And I think the assumption has been, even in my own mind, that when you say blue economy, it's only oceans.
Right.
And here we are now pushing that definition to say, yeah, it also includes lakes and streams and rivers, right? You've done great work with the Chicago River.
Yes, right.
Generating data.
Right.
And bringing local community and citizens together to understand that data a little bit more. So why then do you find, and kind of it's embedded in my setup already, but why is then the Great Lakes a crucial region for this work?
So I think there's a lot of reasons that the Great Lakes is a great place to do water innovation, but one thing that we naturally gravitate toward is we've got a lot of water. Right? So we've got a lot of water. That means we have a lot of water problems to manage. Sure, that's true. And our water assets here are really important. But they're more important to being the resource that's going to support and sustain a dense population.
Right.
Water-intensive industry.
Right.
All of the different ecologies, right? Like the natural resources that our water depends on. And frankly, those resources are relevant not just to our economy here. Those are globally significant water resources, right? So the water is on the map. The thing that I think that we don't spend enough time talking about is the Midwest's industrial and economic assets to be a great place to do water innovation. That's our national labs,
right?
Our research universities, entrepreneurs, like a growing, and it's not just in Chicago, right? This is Detroit, Milwaukee, Cleveland, places all around Indianapolis, hubs of life sciences innovation, materials innovation, data science and computing innovation, right? All of the things that you need to actually solve water problems, not just for our backyard, but for the world.
Right.
And so it's those economic assets, it's our people, it's our companies, it's big industry that is heavy water users, but also needs those water technologies, right? So those are all the assets that I think we spend a lot more time trying to get on the map because they can be invisible unless you're telling the story in that way around the blue economy.
Right. We had that great conversation during Current's Water Week a couple months ago, right, where we learned the number one industry that utilizes water, the number one user of water. It was energy.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
And you turn on your lights, you don't think about water.
You do not. You do not. And the entire conversation around resource management and what's happening, in the world has been very focused, rightly, on what we need to do around energy and carbon, but it is so deeply connected to the water cycle and water management. And I think, these are things that the everyday person doesn't think about.
Right. That energy water nexus that you might hear thrown around. So I don't know if you want to add any details around like data centers and semiconductors and quantum computing that are, really on the minds of policymakers right now and economic development and really economic growth.
Yeah. Here's why I'm really I'm optimistic about some of these trends, which also, depending on how you look at the growth, it can be sort of a very scary pressure on water and energy resources, right? I think we're all pretty aware the growth of these data centers that we all rely on. This is like the utility backbone of the world that we live in, right?
Yep.
Everybody's relying on it, whether or not you're using AI every single day like I am. This is increasingly another utility in the stack of utilities that we all depend on and mostly don't think about.
Right.
They require a lot of energy and they're also thirsty. And the reason they use water is both for offsite energy generation, but also for cooling, right? So just like to establish like what's the role of water and connection to AI and our computing power. That's what it is, right? We use it to make energy. We use it to cool off very hot processes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the fact that these are growing and need to go in places that have access to both energy and water, if you're thinking about the Midwest and where are places that are like actually great places to do that,
Yeah.
this is a pretty good place.
Yeah.
But let's go back to this vision of where we want the region to be.
Right.
Not wherever. Like we can't just put them wherever you want. Like not every place in this region has equal access to water. Not every place in this region is thinking about what it means to locate something that's going to be an energy and water intensive user. We need to do a much better job of that. So I'm optimistic that the growing demand for good places to put these can actually, because it's more on radar, is already driving a conversation around how do we do better reuse? How do we incentivize using recycled water, treated wastewater for industrial purposes? That is so possible. And we just have not had the structures and systems to support it. And I think it's that marriage of different and better policy that supports and sustains this growth industry of the future. I think that's really exciting. And I also want to say one word on quantum computing, which I know, again, depending on what circles you're traveling in, quantum computing is, let's just assume this is the next generation of how we are all going to compute, right? It's really exciting potential. Not only does it require water in just the same way that all this data center stuff does, it is going to be potentially transformational for the discovery of new ways of managing water. So all of the things we're trying to do to get microplastics and PFAS out of our water take material science breakthroughs that are long, hard, deep work, and quantum computing can speed all of that up. So when we think about why do we want to see quantum computing in our region, it's because this is a great region to put heavy water industry and do it well. And it's a place where you want to have that next generation of discoveries powered faster by quantum breakthroughs. So I'm really excited and optimistic about how quantum computing is going to accelerate things that our region's already good at.
Yeah, I was driving back, as I mentioned earlier, from Wisconsin, and we were in a totally rural part of that Wisconsin-Illinois continuum, and there was a sign in the middle of a cornfield next to an old red barn that says, "Quantum computing is the future." And it was so cool to see that. It was like a little bit disjointed, and then you're like, okay, great. People here are thinking about it. And I mean, your excitement is really contagious because I can start to think about, okay, this is an amazing moment in time because it's forcing that like necessity is the mother of invention that maybe California and, areas around the Colorado River have been experiencing. We've been able to kind of sit back and now with quantum and data centers saying, okay, wait a second, we actually need to get smart right away.
Right. And we're seeing examples. So the thing that can drive action is conflict around water, right? Like it always does. We have not had so much of that because again, we've had this perception of infinite supply.
Right.
So I just want to give one example that's been all over the place in our water world. But so you may know just broke ground on a pipeline to send Lake Michigan water to Joliet, a community that's historically been on groundwater in Illinois and is running out of groundwater and needs to shift to Lake Michigan supply.
Okay.
So we're actually building a pipeline out to Joliet to do this. There's a community out there that is also attracting a data center, and a third of their new supply would come from Lake Michigan just to support that data center. And so these are real trade-offs. And there's a great Tribune article about this that talked about, the potential for using treated wastewater instead. Like, is this the way we want to be using our treated, drinking water or not? I mean, these are big questions and they're big trade-offs, but it's these moments of, actually having to make the choice that set us up for, I think, really generative conversations about the whole next generation of water management. So,
Right. It's also fascinating if you know anything about like Chicago history, right? Like that's a big part of what put Chicago on the map.
Absolutely.
In the first place, right? Like redirecting the flow of the Chicago River and creating a canal to be able to carry water throughout this territory for farming.
Yeah, and being part of a globally significant compact that protects these water resources, right? That thinks about what stewardship, what it means to be a beneficiary and a steward of the Great Lakes. And I think that's really important and something that's also often overlooked in this conversation. Globally significant water governance right here in the Midwest.
Yep.
Bilateral, requires cooperation with Canada, who shares our borders and shares our lakes.
Right.
And really important multi-state example of collaboration and shared governance. It's the foundation that allows us to think about how we use it collectively and wisely and what those trade-offs are.
Yeah,
really
fascinating.
Important.
So you talked a little bit about where is innovation most exciting right now?
Yeah.
Where do you feel it's lagging? Or, even talk about like some of these accelerator programs and some of the programmatic categories that you're looking forward to learning more about.
Yeah, so in general, I am really excited about the explosion of what I think of as I guess what the industry calls digital water management, right? So there's so much opportunity at the intersection of kind of connected devices, sensors and sensing to be more efficient about how we manage and value water, and just lots of explosion there for, maybe obvious reasons. Software, easier to scale, lots of investment flowing, but there's just some really exciting kind of IoT developments, and that's great. On the harder side, hard tech, deep tech, material science breakthroughs, these are long-term, really difficult problems to solve. They require interdisciplinary research partnerships quite often. It's like engineering, basic science, deployment in a lot of different contexts. And so to bring a material like something that's going to actually help us get PFAS out of our water or destroy PFAS,
right?
PFAS, a class of compounds that were designed to never be destroyed.
Right.
Those hard problems have always been longer to commercialize, require big upfront investments of R&D from places that don't really want immediate return. And that source has been federal government. And so there's a lot of concern, I think, about the fall off in support federally for basic R&D and what that's going to mean for the pipeline 20 years out. And I think we all have a lot to be concerned about there because, again, these are technologies that can take a really long time to come to market, whether it's, cleaning up and getting more bang for buck out of every single drop of mining wastewater, securing our domestic supply of these critical minerals, or getting, toxic compounds out of water that we all rely on and depend on for clean, safe, healthy drinking. Again, hard problems, and there's not money that's coming in to fill that gap because there's not a immediate commercial potential. So that's the thing that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, absolutely. For me as well. And we had started regulating, or the EPA federally had started regulating, 6 of the types of PFAS that we've defined, but there's 16,000 plus.
Right.
And so it's like that really gnarly problem to try to wrap your head around.
Yeah, and we need those regulatory tailwinds. And I mean, industry wants them too, right? Clarity, consistency, understanding what we need to be doing, keeping out, targeting for removal. Those baseline standards are big, powerful market signals, right? So we definitely need those to keep the flow of innovation coming. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more then about how Current and Great Lakes Renew is helping to commercialize water solutions? You've talked a little bit about what are the ingredients we need to include. How do you participate? If you're cooks in the kitchen there.
Yeah. So I think of our job, everybody that works at Current is in the customer service business. That is what we do. We are here to do customer discovery all day, every day with all sorts of different partners, right? So we want to understand, if you're a big utility, what are your problems? How can we help address those? If you are a company looking to commercialize, what are the hardest, thorniest, most insurmountable challenges you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis? And what we have found is that no matter what kind of water technology company we're working with, everybody is looking for pilot opportunities. They're looking to connect with potential customers, whether they are paid or not, but they're obviously paid is preferable, but they're looking for proof points. They want to get their tech out into the world at a certain level and see if it works and gather data about how they can refine it and make it better. Because if they don't have those real world trialing points, they're just not going to be able to keep building and refining and have the next version, right?
Right.
So that we've focused really intensely in our commercialization vertical on how we can get more pilots, faster pilots, build the relationships, right? All the soft infrastructure of like agreements and data sharing and all that. How do we smooth the way so that we can have more pilots in more settings and more potential customers? Because that's the thing that we found is the constant impediment to growth and scale.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm nodding my head over here for people who are listening on the podcast.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about PFAS, and you've mentioned microplastics, and also there's nanoplastics. What should people actually be worried about, in your opinion?
So I think that one of the most important messages around, if we're talking about drinking water, because I think when you say worried about, we're worried about health, right? Consumption
equity.
of, right.
Yep.
All of those things. So if we're thinking about contamination in water, the first thing is that understand what's in your public drinking water. Because if you're here in Chicago and in the Great Lakes, there is a good chance that you've got great quality water coming out of your tap, but it totally depends on the infrastructure in your house, right? What kind of pipes do you have? All of that. Find out. Your public sector utility probably has a free testing program that you can sign up for and understand what's coming out of your tap. Because you don't, I think the lack of trust in drinking water systems that has proliferated since we've had things like, Flint and other very public disasters around infrastructure is reduced the public trust in drinking water, which that's a cycle we cannot afford to perpetuate because we need the public to care, to invest, and to consume this really great water that we are all paying to treat and deliver, right? So that's the first main message I have. It's like, understand what's in it because it might be better than you think. And if you don't, you can, test multiple times. You can buy private market testing kits, right? So understand what's in it. And I also think that I am really focused on and would suggest for the general public that you focus on understanding what's the policy environment around disclosure, right? And like explaining and sharing what's in the water, not just for the public sector, but for, companies that are responsible for the additives that go into it, right? Because I think there's a real danger. The danger of not trusting what's coming out of the tap is one that I think we don't spend enough time talking about because it's leading us to buy a lot of bottled water, which may not be better.
Nope.
Right.
It's not regulated by the EPA.
Yeah. And so I think that's where I would focus. Like, know what's in it, understand that we are learning every day more and more about what we're putting into the water, and the best thing we can do is not put it into the water supply in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely. Informed citizens, right, are very powerful.
They are, and our public sector is doing the job that it should in a lot of cases, not all, but like demand it then, right? Go ask your utility if they're not offering water testing. Yeah. Why not? Could they? This is certainly something that is widely available in Chicago. Yep. Yeah. I've done it. I could tell you. Yeah. It's a very customer-friendly process to get your water tested. Yeah, absolutely. It is very easy. Yep. Yeah. And I'll also add, our municipal water reclamation district, the programs they offer. Yep. There's an event tomorrow, 10 a.m. remotely. They're giving a tour of the wastewater. Oh my gosh, the virtual Stickney tour. Yeah. Oh, do not miss it. If you've never done this, they offer them frequently. It is it's like a must-do if you join Current, whether you're an intern or full-time employee. It's like, when are you getting on the virtual Stickney tour? And then hopefully, when can we get you out there to see this infrastructure in person? Because it's unbelievable. Yeah, you can go out and visit. That's right. Understand publicly available. Understand what goes into treating our wastewater and our stormwater. Yeah. Very cool. Okay, so we're transitioning to the final stage here with rapid fire questions. Oh boy. Okay, so what is one water innovation you wish existed 10 years ago? That exists today? Yeah. Right here. Right here. Woo! Come on. I'm shaking for those of you. I'm going to have my first sip of water out of one of Kadea's wonderful bottles. All right. Yes. I'll have one with you. Yes. Cheers. No, cheers. I'm so excited about the potential to have no more single-use beverage dispensers. And I, of course, if you've got your own, I mean, carrying it to airports, there's something called Hope Hydration.
Yep.
That I was in the Minneapolis airport last weekend.
Yeah.
And it's just this like wonderful, very easy bottle fill station right in the airport. So again, I'm excited about more just direct from the tap.
Refill, reuse.
Yep, refill, reuse. Yep.
Awesome. All right. While you're swallowing that delicious Kadea water, a question for you to think about. If you could rewrite one water policy with a snap of your fingers, what would it be?
One water policy with the snap of my fingers.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I'm thinking a lot about the wetlands policy at the moment.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking the role that the Waters of the United States Act is playing in managing our wetlands. It's not something we work on every day with Current, but as like, again, a public member of the public that just loves these incredible boundary places that do so much work for our entire planet.
Yep.
And they are precious and they are disappearing. And I would love them to be protected at the level that they deserve and valued for the, essential, irreplaceable piece of infrastructure that they are.
Yeah. Hear, hear. Okay. Lighter question. Favorite body of water in the Midwest?
Ooh, very specifically, jumping off of the rocks at Promontory Point, facing north, Lake Michigan, which is my backyard body of access to Lake Michigan and
Amazing.
the place that I spend as much time as I can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Incredible. What's something people misunderstand about PFAS or water pollution?
Yeah, one thing, I think this is like a general water misconception. If I could get rid of one, it's the idea that bigger is better on infrastructure and solutions, right? So that I think there's just like a common perception that we need big, we need scale, and that is like not always the best way to solve a water challenge.
Yeah.
Decentralized infrastructure, decentralized treatment, even decentralized, finding ways to harvest and capture water. I think that small is just disfavored for so many reasons, and we're missing out on the abundance that's right in front of us. If we think about how small can be a solution.
Amazing. Completely agree. Okay. One sentence to describe why you care so deeply about water.
Water is life.
Yeah.
Water is life. It is simply, I can't do better than that. Yeah. It's like, we can just all be repeating it, put it on a t-shirt.
Totally.
It is the fundamental molecule. It's what gets us up every day, and I've been thinking a lot about just I just read a terrific novel in my summer reading.
Oh, recommend.
Yeah, called Orbital.
Okay.
And it's just about astronauts living on the space station, and the entire novel takes place in like their orbiting of the planet, and so much of it is about how our planet is a blue planet and the just reality of the abundance of water, and just how much it is a part of the world we live in, the people that we are, the work that we do. So
wow, I'm going to pick that one up.
Yeah, great summer read.
Awesome. And then where can listeners find you and support your work?
Listeners can find Current at www.currentwater.org. And there are so many ways to support our work. We are really excited to, of course, be stewarding this incredible National Science Foundation investment at the moment. But what that has really meant for us is an incredible need to scale other sources of support and diversify them, because all of this investment has meant that we have a much bigger footprint and challenge ahead of us. And we're just really excited to connect with anyone that wants to be a partner in our work and also an investor in this vision and the waste to wealth future we're trying to bring forward right here in the Great Lakes. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so exciting. We love having Current here, and I love getting to bump into you around town, Alaina.
Always a pleasure. Yes.
Thank you for coming. Thanks for making time. That was Alaina Harkness, the CEO of Current, Chicago's Water Innovation Hub, and CEO of Great Lakes Renew, the National Science Foundation-funded Great Lakes Water Innovation Engine. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Unbottled, and keep listening for exciting new interviews coming up. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Unbottled. If this episode got you thinking about plastic, systems change, or how we build a better future, don't just be a listener, be an owner. Kadea is raising a community round on WeFunder, and that means you can invest as little as $100 and help us bring closed-loop beverage systems to more people in more places. Because real change doesn't happen alone, and the future of hydration needs all of us. Learn more and join our investor community at wefunder.com/Kadea. That's Kadea. The link is also in the show notes. Let's build it together.